Hello, my name's Amanda Tarling. I'm a lay chaplain, I'm a yogini, and I'm the mother of Cal, and this story is not about me, it's about my son Cal, who is now 6.5, and I'm going to take you back a little bit and tell you about his first word. His first word is horse. Now this is not really remarkable for a 3-year-old, but for my son it was really remarkable because his first word was a sign, was this horse. Cal was born with a genetic condition that is considered not compatible with life. You will never have heard of it. It's called Pitot syndrome. What comes with that is lots of problems with his immune system, with his major organs, with his eyes. They thought he probably would never walk, never talk, probably not make his first birthday. When he was 2, we found out he had a second disease called Legg-Perthes. Legg-Perthes is like osteoporosis. Somehow the blood supply is cut off to the top of the femur bone, and Callum has lost his entire femur bone. So he's in a fair amount of pain. And when he was 2, the one thing that he really loved were horses. So we go and see the horses in James Bay, the big carriage horses, and he loved those horses. And at this point in time, I really thought, I've got to communicate with my son. He wasn't able to talk. I'm going to learn sign language. So one of the first signs I learned was the sign for horse. Now the doctors had meanwhile said, don't bother to sign with Cal because he doesn't have the cognitive ability, the fine motor skills, nor the gross motor skills to sign. You're wasting your time. I'm not someone that listens necessarily to medical wisdom when I don't agree with it, so I went ahead and learned sign language, and within 24 hours Cal was signing horse, and I knew we were on to something magical. So a friend, knowing how much Cal adored horses, told us about Victoria Riding for the Disabled, and when he was 2 I made the phone call, yes, we'll put him on the waiting list, and when Cal was 4 we got the call, we've got a horse available, Cal can come and ride. And I couldn't believe the day had finally come because Cal just adored horses so much. So he came to the barn, he got on the horse, and I have never seen such a happy kid. The bond he immediately had with his horse, Angel, was truly remarkable. Within his first year, now this is a nonverbal kid we're talking about, he said his first words on the back of his horse. He said, walk on and whoa. It's impossible to tell you how much hope that gave us, his family, that perhaps one day he would have more than 2 or 3 words when we were told he would never have a single word. And it's thanks to his connection to the horses of Victoria Riding for the Disabled.
Did you have a good ride? Got a good ride? Yes.
Just by the fact of him centering his body, being put off center and having him center himself, actually stimulates in the brain a center of communication. So it helps him to learn to verbalize. Try that equity and it seemed okay. Good.
Hey, look at you, Cal.
Good.
Good job.
Good on me.
Good job. I'm so proud. Let's walk on, Cal. Cal Angel. There. Good job.
We're going to do a back walk.
Nice work. You sit nice and tall. Good.
Ride to the barrel.
Yeah, sure.
So let me tell you a little bit about what horse riding does for Callum. When he's on the back of the horse, he's sitting in a position that opens his hips and allows the blood into his very, very badly damaged femur bone. And it's a position we're supposed to keep Callum in as much as possible. He's 6. He doesn't like to sit still for long, but for 45 minutes a week, he is in the perfect position for healing his hip. When he's riding, he's constantly having to center his body. And I recently learned that when you're trying to get your balance on the back of a horse, the same center that you're working that balance is where you have communication skills and where communication skills can really be influenced. So just by virtue of riding on the horse and rebalancing, his communication skills are being challenged, and he's helping to work that area of his brain. Riding on a horse is a skill that no one else in Callum's family has. We can all do a zillion other things that Callum can't do, but Callum can ride and we can't. And to have something that Callum does that none of the rest of us do is magical. The independence that horse riding gives Callum is incredible. This is a kid who has to go in a stroller absolutely everywhere. In the park, we used to have to carry him from the bottom of the slide round to the top of the slide because his hip was so bad he couldn't put pressure on his hip. And he can ride on a horse and have freedom. And there are very few places that Callum can have true freedom.
Okay, and now Tigger lead us off the merry-go-round. Tigger and Angela, you're the leader.
Good job. You have the ball. Good boy. Now we're going to 2 points. Good job.
I want to tell you a couple of stories about Cal riding his horse. On his very last horse ride last year, he'd been out on the trails, he'd had the most incredible horse ride. He was so proud of himself. Now he's supposed to be holding onto his reins the entire time, but he was so happy when he saw me, he dropped his reins and he signed, "Wow, Mom, look at me," because like a typical child would say. And there are not many things that Callum does like a typical child. I was so proud. I was speechless. I want to tell you another story about Cal riding. He used to, when he first started to ride, his sidewalkers, who are just amazing. I have to put in a quick comment about the incredible volunteers that work here. It takes 6 people for Callum to ride a horse, and they're all so amazing with him and with the horses. But back to his riding story. He normally would drop the reins when he wanted to tell the horse to go and sign "go," which is fantastically cute but not very effective. Within the first year of riding, he was able to say "walk on" and "whoa." Now his very last ride last year, just as he was getting off the horse, I heard him say his first sentence, "Time to get down." I cannot imagine that in 2 years of riding, he went from being completely and totally non-verbal to being able to say sentences, full sentences. And I think the most telling story about Callum and horse riding is when he wakes up in the morning, the very first thing he says is today Angel Day? As in, do we ride today? One of the skills that Callum is learning at horse riding is the ability to reach and stretch, and that's a really hard skill for him. So he's on the back of the horse, he's having to balance, and he has to reach and stretch and grab a ring. So he's got to get the coordination, he's got to get the stretching action, and he still has to keep his balance. He has to get that ring, he has to accumulate the rings from all around the barn, and then he puts them together in a tower, or he's building a block with blocks he's accumulated. So all these skills he's having to put together, color, coordination, balance, all the fine motor skills, while he's also working on gross motor skills. So in just 10 minutes in the ring, he's already done a week worth of physiotherapy.